Cue the music! Cue the music! Cue the music! All right. Welcome to episode something of Composerish. This has got to be episode number 6 now, right?
This is episode number 6 of Composerish. I am Kevin MacLeod.
And I am Bryan Teoh.
Bryan, who's coming to us from the 38th most populous city in the world, New York City.
Is it really 38?
It's 38.
What's one? Is that like Rio de Janeiro or something? Or
it's something in China that you've never heard of.
Oh, that makes sense because they have a lot of people.
They have a lot of people.
So you were just telling me about a Star Trek project that you were working on. Unofficial
Star Trek project, yes.
And you're creating a soundscape for that. Tell me a little bit about your process.
So
Or at least tell me a bit about the project first. Like, what are you trying to do?
I got the idea because I have a hard time sleeping sometimes, and I just put on Star Trek episodes in the background. But sometimes those episodes, things happen. Red alerts occur. There's fight sequences. I don't want any of that. I just want 8 hours of some shift on the bridge where nothing happens.
But listening to people like speaking about things.
Yeah. Tentatively for this 8-hour shift, we've got we're patrolling the neutral zone, and we find like a 35-kilometer rock coming out of the neutral zone, and it turns out it was just ejected from a binary star system, and it's not going to hit anything. It's made out of silicates. There's nothing interesting about it. Astrometrics updates their star charts, and that takes 4 hours. There's just nothing that happens.
That's great.
But most of the time, nothing.
It's like real life then, right?
Oh, absolutely.
If you're on a patrol mission, nothing is going to happen most of the time.
Exactly. So in order to do this, I got to build up what it sounds like to be on the bridge. And there's a lot of beeping that goes on in the bridge, but too much beeping, and it's going to be tough to sleep, and also going to be annoying for the people that are working on the bridge. Normally, when we're on Star Trek, we only see the bridge when interesting things are going on. So there's stuff going on all over the place, and this is just mostly, just standard droney stuff.
I mean, so how do you study up on like what this soundscape should be? Like, do you find silent parts of Star Trek episodes and then sort of like listen to that and figure out what the density of beeps should be, or are you just kind of like feeling it out?
Right, both. There are a lot of audio resources can you imagine Star Trek people are obsessive about things. So you can find like all of the beeps that they've ever used.
But are they technologically capable? That's the question.
So I downloaded all that. There's a bunch of pre-built ambiances, but the ship that we're on is not a Galaxy-class starship. It's just a small ship with only 4 people on the bridge.
Like a scouting ship.
It's a
skiff.
Little thing. They've got cargo. So it's going to sound a little bit different than a Galaxy-class starship, but I'm definitely listening to the whirs and beeps of the computer systems to inform the new soundscape.
So how would you go about like building this world? Then, because I mean, if you're going to have beeps and stuff, I assume like sine waves are involved, and you have to build this all up through synthesis, or what's the
beeps and chirps? I just straight up stole off of some other people's websites where they've gathered all of the beeps and chirps from Star Trek.
That's so crazy. Like I understand fandoms and people get like really nerdy about this, but like at some point, who decided that they're going to be like, I'm going to collect all of the beeps and chirps that happen on the bridge?
Well, I can tell you it was collected by a lot of different people with a lot of different technologies because they are not all of similar qualities. And so I got a few hundred of them today, and then I sorted them by quality and then sorted them by type. And, some people doubled other people's, and some of people's had better stereo fields than others. And I'm going to smash it all down anyway. But
what do you think the goal was when they were creating these sets in the first place? I mean, is it just to have them documented because they want to gather everything they can about the show that they love so much? Or were they gathering it with the intent to that people can make something out of it?
There's a lot of Star Trek fan fiction out there. So I'm guessing it was those people that were building new Star Trek episodes.
Is there like a D&D for Star Trek, like a Star Trek role-playing game? Like maybe people make soundscapes for that specifically.
Yeah, maybe there are. Well, is there a Star Trek role-playing game? Absolutely, yes. The question is, yeah, I don't know if people make soundscapes for that. Because you can go onto YouTube and get 8 hours of bridge sounds, 8 hours of engineering sounds, 8 hours of hanging out in a Jeffries tube.
I feel like I've come across that, like, which is why I'm kind of asking. Like, I mean, so I'm guessing if you wanted to create this thing, and you're making all these sounds from the ground up, or you're stealing these sounds, like these 8 hours of bridge sounds or whatever weren't sufficient for your project, because I feel like somebody else already went through this pain of having to make this, which just sounds like a lot of work.
Yeah, because things actually do happen. And so like when stuff happens and people start typing, you'll hear them typing on the LCAR screens, and you'll hear incoming hails. I mean, like you'll hear one incoming hail in this episode. And the ones in the ambience, it's too busy. There's too many bleeps and bloops going on. And so I built just like the engine sounds with no bleeps and bloops. And then like there's some faint bleeps and bloops, and then there's going to be scripted bleeps and bloops.
Yeah, I was going to say, is there like an algorithm in place? Because I feel like trying to hand place these sounds would be really, really tedious.
I just took them all and like loaded them into a sampler. So there's one beep per key. So I can just do like a randomized script to have things going on for hours, but then when actual things happen and people are filing reports and getting reports from Astrometrics, we can just hit a D and an F sharp and off we go.
How are you figuring out like the intervals where this happens? I mean, do you have like just like a random number generator that like selects an interval, be like, okay, create this sound, and then we're going to randomly generate a space until the next event happens, or what's the logic behind your script?
The way that I'm planning on doing it, I haven't done it yet, is just do a just like a pile of 16th notes, all on one note, and then have a script go in and delete like 99.2% of them. And then randomize the key and the velocity.
Interesting.
So you just draw in wherever you want, and then it'll start bleeping on occasion.
Cool. And then you're also going to have like actual like scripted lines over the top of this?
Yeah. We're writing the script now. You may be a character.
I may be a character? Okay.
Yeah, Teoh, you're already like a Vulcan. You don't have to act very much. You just gotta, read the lines down.
Am I a Vulcan in real life? Is that my character?
I don't know. I don't know what I think I would be a terrible actor in this. Like whenever I watch like Next Gen, they'll have like, Ensign Smith sitting on the bridge.
Yeah.
And they have to deliver one line, and it's the worst. It's just like, the incoming hail is coming, Commander. I'm like, what? Can you sound like a person? I
mean, unfortunately, this is like whoever the extra was that got this gig, that was like a big deal for them. You know this.
Oh, absolutely.
Like they were like, if this happened in the age of like social media, they were probably like humble bragging like on their social media accounts and stuff, being like, oh man, like here's my coffee that I'm having, as they take a picture of their hand with like a coffee cup. They're like, here's my coffee that I'm having on my way to set today, feeling really blessed or whatever. Like then they're like, yeah, it's just like that feeling when you realize that you're a new character on your favorite show, and then they have like a picture of them in makeup or whatever, and they click and they put it on their resume as like, yeah, I was on this show that you might have heard of, Star Trek or whatever. And then when you finally like, you're like, oh man, this guy's like really accomplished, and you go find the episode that they're in, you're like, oh, you were an extra.
Yeah. Well, no, it's not an extra, because technically I was a named character, and I had a spoken line.
I had a line. I'm SAG.
And so I am credited.
I got union rates.
Yep.
SAG credits. There was a guy that I knew that asked for like 2 weeks off of work at a bar that I was working at. And he kept being like, yeah, I got to be on set. And he kept saying like set, I got to be on set. You know, I got this gig. And it turns out he was an extra on like a show. And he didn't have any lines, actually. He was just background. Yeah. I was like, so you didn't even audition for this. You just answered like a cattle call on Craigslist, which is, I mean, I guess, I don't know.
That's fun.
That's it. It's hard. It's hard out there. There's a lot of gigs, and everyone has to fake it till they make it.
I think you're fine.
For this one terribly delivered line that this character made, that was a terrible line for everybody else and a defining moment in that person's career for themselves.
Yeah.
So. I've been working on a project recently, and it requires a lot of instruments that I don't have. I've been trying to do like this kind of folksy medieval thing, and I needed like hammered dulcimers and bagpipe drones and stuff like that. And I was actually wondering, how often do you end up purchasing instruments mid-project? Because this happens to me kind of a lot, where like I'm like working on something, like I really need a mandolin or something, and I don't have a real mandolin to record or whatever, and like I'm like I might have something, but it really sucks and it's not working, and I'm like, I could spend $300 on this instrument right now,
solve all your problems.
Yeah, but that's gonna, you know, it comes out of the payment for the project then, which means that your bottom line goes down, and you're also downloading new software then, which you then have to install, and you have to read the manual for and figure out how to use, and it kind of sets you back. So like I do this with alarming frequency. But I was wondering, how common is this?
Yep, that happens. That happens as well. I think I've gotten to the point where every kind of music that I kind of do, I got now.
Oh,
like
that's great.
I've got a dulcimer. I've got bagpipes. I still wish I had a good banjo. Still wishing for a good banjo, but one of these days.
Yeah, I've got a banjo that actually comes from a really crappy instrument set, but it sounds good if you're playing a very specific way.
Okay.
Like I can like individual slowly plucked notes can sound reasonable. If you're trying to do like that bluegrass band, like the real
some
finger picking stuff.
Finger picking. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Claw hammer is more like a strumming technique.
Yeah.
But if you're trying to do like really fast bluegrass finger picking, it sounds like garbage. But if you want like really slow, it sounds okay.
All right. Yeah, that's usually not what I want.
Right, exactly. that's the problem. As soon as it speeds up, you're like, oh, that's fake as shit.
Yeah. There's a couple of really good guitar emulators where like you can't play a D, D sharp, E, and F, you know, and have them all ring out because there's no way to do that on a guitar. So like it actually knows how many strings are available and what frets are available. But they haven't done that for a banjo that I've found yet.
What company makes those? That's not Impact Soundworks. Who's the guitar maker?
It's a company out of China. Hang on, I'll go look.
Yeah, I think I have a bass of theirs and maybe like one electric guitar. But I know collect a lot more instruments from them. Oh, I think I have their mandolin. That's actually one that I bought on the fly because I needed it. Ample, right?
Yeah, no, Ample. I'm really excited with their, especially their nylon string guitar is great for that medieval stuff.
I guess it kind of sounds like a lute because it's got like gut strings, nylon strings, similar timbre kind of, especially in a mix.
Well, and guitar is old. It's an old instrument. I don't know how far back it goes, but it's a ways.
I mean, not as far back as the lute, but yeah.
Hundreds and hundreds of years at least.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess it depends on where you draw that line of like what is a guitar. Like there's a whole evolution.
Right.
So yeah, I have bought an awful lot of instruments for projects, and sometimes I've spent more on completing a project than I've actually gotten for the project itself. And I always try to tell myself, I'm like, yeah, it's an investment.
You're investing in your future, and then like $20,000 later, you're like, I didn't need all of this. You know what I would like right now? A pizza. That would be sweet.
I tend to figure this out when I'm doing my taxes and I'm trying to like do my deductions and I look at how much I spent. I'm like, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So for commissioned work, this is how much I made and this is how much I spent. That is embarrassing. There are people who are better at business who can obviously keep better track of this, but you know.
Yeah. ... If you're good at business, what are you doing writing music? I don't know. You could probably make a lot more money doing other things.
It seems like it's really hard.
Especially coming from the Midwest. And you're like, oh, well, I want people to know about my stuff, but I don't want to bug them.
Oh, this is actually another good question. So maybe you're the wrong person to ask because I actually don't know if you do this. like social media presence is a huge thing. Like a lot of people at least kickstart their careers these days through a strong social media presence, which I am pretty terrible at personally.
Well, we got this podcast, so there's that.
And I put out a track recently that I thought was actually going to make a lot of waves, and it just didn't go anywhere. And I don't know how to promote it properly. Like I think like you have to put something out, and then you kind of have to find ways to keep mentioning it over and over and over again. But there's also like a line where like you can't do it too much, or people start to get really annoyed. Like that you're very obviously trying to advertise something you did. So you have to find ways to like be sneaky about it and tell people that you did a thing, but not really be overt about it. And I feel like this is like a whole skill set that is lost on me. And for some people, like people that grew up with social media being already a thing, like it's kind of almost second nature. Like I've seen people who are really good at it, and I just don't know where the line is. Like I feel like I'll put out a tweet at like 3 a.m. because that's when I think about it, and nobody will see it. And then you try to mention it again later on, and you might get like a couple retweets. But at the end of the day, it's like I don't know. Like I actually don't know if this is a skill that's teachable, learnable, or if there are rules based around this.
Clearly, there are rules, but I am the wrong person to ask. Like there's people who are like apparently doing all the right things, and they're, you know, sending out emails off their email list at regular intervals, you know, announcing an upcoming thing in 2 months, and then you hear about it in 1 month, and then in a week, and 3 days, and like unsubscribe.
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like I've also had that experience where I've subscribed to somebody's newsletter or whatever because I actually want to stay up with what they're doing. Like I think they're doing cool stuff. But then when I get too many messages from them, I'm like, I realize I haven't read a single thing you've written me for the last 3 years. It's just been like, it's all unread messages. So I'll finally just select all of them, delete them, and then the next one that I get, I'll unsubscribe from their list. So how effective is this stuff actually? Like I feel like like the people who are really good at social media sometimes can actually parlay that into more work. But more often than not, from what I've seen, people end up getting like tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of followers. And they end up getting really good at getting likes and karma and whatever you call it on whatever social media you're in, retweets and whatever. But like, does it actually convert to more jobs?
I don't think so. Like, you know, yelling at people to like and subscribe will get people to like and subscribe, but they've also liked and subscribed to 1,000 other things, and you're just part of the noise now.
And are they paying you money? I mean, I guess YouTube has like partnerships, and they pay you fees for like, you know, advertising and whatever. But like if you get really good at like Instagram or Twitter, can you make money off of that? Like I don't see a lot of these people getting jobs. Like it seems like a lot of people will end up taking like 1,000 photos in one day, and then they'll spend the next couple of years sort of parsing those out. Like I've seen the same picture of somebody's desk, like just their studio setup. It's like their computer screen, some lights, their speakers with no real acoustic treatment or whatever. It's like obviously some sort of New York apartment that they've turned into like their studio space or whatever. Not judging, because that's exactly what I've set up with. But like, how many different pictures of your desk with like different colored lights can you have? And they're like never in them. They just have like, and there's like a project timeline in the background. They're like feeling blessed, like for this, working on this commercial or whatever. But like, they don't ever actually post any links to work that they've done. It's just they always have like pictures of projects that they have in progress. But I'm like, are you really working on stuff all the time? Or is this just like, have you scheduled like Instagram posts and tweets to go out for like a full year in advance? Because it's basically a different angle of the same picture.
Geez.
And if they're hot, they have like headshots of themselves, and they'll be like, here's a tip, like try to create something new every day or whatever, and then it'll be like a person in a swimsuit. Like,
thanks for the tip.
I just like, I don't know.
That didn't occur to me. Create something new, huh?
Yeah, it's something like that. Like,
I know you're not wrong. And the thing is, like, some of these people I really like, and
when you see these things, it's like you just assume that they're successful. But then when I start to really think about it, I'm like, are they? Is this really converting to like any sort of like success in the career that they are telling me that they're a part of, or are they just now like a social media influencer?
Yeah, if you just want to fake being successful, I think we know how to do it. And yeah, you could take a bunch of pictures and, get a bunch of different bottles of water and cans of stuff and snacks and, reset your thing and take another picture like it's another day and change the lighting and take another picture and, yeah, put them out once, twice a week for the year.
I mean, I think one of the major things about this is I think you have to be really attractive to do it.
Oh, yeah, being pretty helps.
Yeah, absolutely.
But you can just hire someone. That's pretty shit.
I almost did that in college, actually. I had a project under a pseudonym, and I was going to go so far as to obscure my identity that I was going to like hire a model basically to be the face of the project. The person that I approached about it was actually kind of cool about it. And they're like, yeah, it sounds really interesting. Like, let me know. And I never followed through, but like, looking back, I was like, yeah, that was probably kind of creepy.
Yeah. And so I'm in. Yeah, I have a pseudonym also named Elmer Van Linen.
Elmer Van Linen,
who is an actor. Took pictures of. He did a live performance of Elmer Van Linen music once.
Wait, but is he actually a musician?
No. It was just canned music, and he was just talking over it.
Great. Can we get a sample of some Elmer Van Linen music here?
Absolutely.
All right, so this is a person that you hired, gentleman, I'm assuming.
Yeah, and I think the actor's dead now, so...
Oh, no.
I don't think we're going to have any more Elmer Van Linen music coming out.
But I think the promo shots that you got of Elmer Van Linen are like timeless for that style, because it's such like it's like a loungy thing. Like that's like a style that doesn't change. Like a lounge singer, especially with this super cheesy lounge singing style from 1960s, doesn't look much different from a super cheesy lounge singer now.
Yeah.
They're going to be wearing like a suit or a tux.
So the trick is to only do music that is already dead.
I guess.
And then it's already timeless. It's not modern. It's whatever.
Or yeah, like something that's like a throwback, like surf rock. If you have a surf rock band, you can probably be pretty safe in getting a picture of somebody that looks like Betty Page. Or I don't know, if you're gonna go the guy route, like somebody who's got like their clothing style is probably not going to change too much.
Yeah,
and hairstyles are all kind of codified.
So there we go. There's beautiful tips for being pseudonyms.
And faking doing the thing that you actually say that you do. Like,
but in this case, we're actually doing it and faking being additional people as opposed to sitting at home and faking doing things, which is how this whole thing started.
rescoring, how useful do you think that is as a tool?
Rescoring is how I started. Well, actually, I started scoring silent films.
Okay.
But that way you get to work with things that already have timing. Like if you're working on scoring, writing songs is not going to help you at all. That is a completely different skill set. So you got to score to a movie. And you got to kind of score to the kind of movie that you want to score. Scoring a romantic comedy is a very different animal than scoring a horror piece.
I mean, silent movies don't have a score, or they have something that was added in afterwards that may or may not be historically accurate to what was actually used. So that's a different beast. But like, let's say a film student now, or let's say a film scoring student now finds a film that they like, and they put a score to it. Like, are they actually able to use this as a promotional thing?
I would imagine.
Like, they can put out like the Birds with a score on their YouTube.
You can absolutely put out your score and say, play the Birds and then play this at the same time.
Got it. But you can't put out the actual movie itself.
No. There's a couple movies you can do that with. I think Day of the Dead famously has fallen out of copyright.
Wait, really?
Or was never in it. It was a zombie film.
Oh yeah. No, that's on
film.
Yeah, that's on the Internet Archive, I think, for free.
Yeah.
You just download it.
Yeah, Metropolis, Nosferatu, those are old ones, but yeah, It's a Wonderful Life, I believe, doesn't have copyright.
And the other question then is, for stuff that already has a score and you're rescoring it, I mean, do you think that the extant score is going to unduly influence you? Like, I think a huge part of the challenge of scoring films is trying to decide, like spotting and trying to figure out where a score is absolutely necessary and where it isn't is very difficult. And also trying to figure out what tropes to use. Like, if one of the most intimidating things that I have personally ever had to face, and still, to this day is actually still kind of scary, is like seeing a film with no Foley or music yet.
Yeah, they're awful, right?
Yeah, it's all it is just people on screen, and they're saying their lines, and the scene seems to go nowhere, and now you have to figure out how to like make it go. Yeah. Because without the music and without the sound design, which usually comes later, like it's really difficult to figure out like what a scene is about. And it's
almost like music makes the film. It's almost like that's real.
And ideally you're going to be able to like sit down with the director and they'll have ideas of like what they want in what places. Right. Sometimes their ideas are a little bit too specific and you're like, maybe not. And other times they really don't have any idea and they're like, you just do your job. And either way, I feel like it can be very difficult to deal with. But I remember one of the scariest things, and I think I actually contacted you about it. I was like, what do I do? Like there's I don't know where music should start. I don't know where it should end. I don't know how I should make this scene feel, because you can make it go in so many different directions, where something that would normally be like heartbreaking or awkward or funny or a little bit like scary, like you can make a scene feel a lot of different ways and totally direct this movie into a different direction, depending on how you...
Yeah, that's when it's good to spot with your director. If you can talk to the director, go through the thing, ask questions about the characters. What's going on with this person? What are they thinking? The director generally knows.
Well, and hope that they understand like what the scene is actually about themselves. Like, because I've seen things where like I feel like the score kind of misses the mark. Like I'm working on a kind of a rescore right now because I didn't like the music for this scene, and it And so it's like as an exercise, I'm just kind of like trying to like do something new for it. And I feel like they were trying to make this like fight scene seem sort of like very tense and scary and dark and ominous. But it wasn't about that at all. I mean, it was, first of all, it was animation. And I thought that the whole scene was about like showing how spirited this character was, because they were just willing to like jump into a fight kind of out of nowhere. And I felt like it should have been kind of a little bit more boisterous and raucous, and kind of like a drunken brawl, basically.
Yeah.
And when you try to make it serious, like it's like, oh, this is dark, it's very scary because they're in a fight. It's like, it just doesn't work. Like, but I can't pin that on the composer, because that might have been something that was told to them. Like, we need to make this feel more ominous and more dark. But it just, that scene absolutely, to me at least, did not work. That way.
No, you can make people like characters just with music. You can make people hate characters just with music. It's amazing. And if the director's not in there to like give you that stuff, guess who's the director now? And you get to make whatever you want.
And hope that you don't have to redo it. Or if you are, at least you're getting paid for your time and effort.
Right.
Good luck. But I think trying to do like a rescore, like let's say you don't have a film that you're able to do yet, I think being able to watch a scene over and over again and knowing what choices the film scorer already made, or knowing what choices the composer already made.
Do not listen to the score before you start scoring.
I mean, it's so hard because you need the dialogue. You need to know what's going on in the scene.
If you can get a piece with dialogue and without, and they're out there, scenes with dialogue and no music.
I must feel like this should be like a training tool. Like I would have found this incredibly useful before I had the opportunity to like have to stare at like an empty film with no score. Like it would have been reassuring at least to have some practice with some like films that were out there that people just released. Were like, okay, here's a scene. There's no music, but there should be. This, just put it on YouTube. People can use it for whatever. I understand that there are some very famous films that don't have scores to them that you can use. Like The Birds is one that everyone talks about because apparently there's no music in that.
You want to do a big fight sequence? Harry Potter versus Voldemort in the final film.
There's no music for that?
There's no music in the entire like chase sequence, fight sequence. It's just all raw power audio. There's no music. It's gorgeous. It is the best lack of score ever.
Yeah, I mean, that's a ballsy move. I haven't watched that far, honestly. I've only seen, I think, through Harry Potter number 4, and then I kind of stopped.
That's fair. What's your house?
I don't know. I don't think I know enough about the houses to know. I always fancied myself as like a Ravenclaw person, but I think it was just because as far as book number 4, nobody really knows anything about Ravenclaw. Like,
they're there. They're the smart ones. Yeah, there's not a lot set in the Ravenclaw common room.
I knew that they were kind of smart and they were a little bit mysterious to me, which I sort of liked. So fair. I placed myself there. In reality, I'd probably be in Hufflepuff.
Yeah, I'm a little Ravenpuff.
I think I'm way more candy ass than I like to own up to. How do you learn to spot a film?
How do you learn to spot a film? Yeah.
You just start doing it, I guess.
Filmmaking is not a one-person deal. So when you start doing this, talk to the other people who are making the film. Talk to the editor. Talk to the director. Find out what they're trying to do. So, for example, right now I'm scoring it's about an 18-minute short film from India. They sent it over a couple of weeks ago and took a look at it, and I wrote down all of the beats in the film. So whenever we had a scene change, whenever we had an emotion change, those are the things that are now in my spreadsheet. And then you learn about the characters as you're watching through it. So you sort of come up with this plan of, okay, we're going to over the top everything, right? If something is calm, it's going to be super calm. If something is frightening, it is going to be super frightening. We're just going to turn everything that you saw in that film up to 11 so that the audience knows how they're supposed to feel.
This is your general approach, or is this just what you decided was appropriate for this project?
This is what I do more or less on every project.
Okay.
Then get together. So I do that first off, and then I get together with the director and go, here's what I got. Is this about right? what do you think about it?
And this is just making notes, or is this actually you're actually scoring it out first? You're
This
gonna
is
pass
just
at it.
this is just text notes with minute 2, second 14, scene change, calm, and then describe what the scene would be musically.
Okay.
And then the director usually take a look at it, look at the notes, and this is where I start asking questions about the characters. I'm like, okay, it wasn't really clear here. Is this lady the murderer? Or is she being set up? I need to show what can't be seen. And if there is malice in her heart, the audience deserves to know that, unless it's secret malice,
Yes. Like you're trying to, it's a fake out or like a red herring or something.
Yeah.
Like you want to like try to lead them down that path, but then there's a twist.
Right. But you don't want to be too mean. You don't want to give them the hero thing, but you can give them ambiguous musics. And then I'll take like the harshest ones, like the biggest moments, and score those first. The ones where you've got 14 trumpets and screaming strings and all that stuff, and do the big set pieces.
Is this big as in like iconic, or is this big as in it's going to take you the most amount of time to do? Because I feel like they can sometimes be different things.
These are the major themes. These are the big parts that people are going to. It's going to impact people hardest.
Ah, okay.
Then you can do some beautiful things, like if you have some crazy trumpet thing going on, then when you like reverse in, you can use some of the same trumpet themes to sort of foreshadow what's going to come later, which is super useful.
Yeah, you can have like fragments and
Yeah.
chunks of things that you can reuse to make your minimal writing a lot easier.
Right. And that way, when the big moment happens, people are already familiar with the theme, so they don't have to worry about that. That's not something new that they have in their brain. They can worry about what's going on screen. And Jesus, why is that guy getting stabbed in the neck with an ink pen? That's ugh.
Yeah. Have you ever had major disagreements with any sort of director? Like they're like, well, this character is sad, so the music should be sad. I'm like, okay, that character is sad, but this scene is actually funny. They're like, yeah, well, it's supposed to be funny, but the character is sad, so I want the music to be sad. It's like, what?
Yeah. Yep,
like
that happens all the time. And then the good music that I wrote the first time gets published on Incompetech, and then I go, you got it, boss, and I write sad music for them.
I've sometimes tried to do both, where I'll say like, okay, here's this scene the way that you wanted to do it, and here's this scene the way that I think it should feel. Like, what do you think? And sometimes it'll actually come around, but it's also like extra work that you have to do then, because you have to like basically score that scene twice.
Oh, I see. Yeah, I thought you meant like if you score something and they're like, this should be sad. I'll be like, yep.
Oh,
yes, it will.
they hear it the way that you've done it and they disagree with you and they want it a different way. It's like, yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, they're the boss at that point. Like some of the best advice that I ever got was somebody's like, you have to identify who your boss is. Like, and it's not the music editor or another composer or whoever else, like an actor or whatever. It's like whoever's calling the shots and whoever at the end of the day is paying your paycheck. That's the person who you need to make happy. So
Yeah, that's why I stopped actually working for ad companies, because they're like, okay, we'll put it in front of the panel. I'm sorry, the panel? I thought I was writing this music for you. You were yeah, no, we've got a lot of people who got to weigh in on this. Like, nope, it's not gonna happen.
yeah.
Because then you get it should be brighter, it should be duller, it should be faster, it should be slower. I'm like, you got it. Nope, I can't do you.
I'm not naming any names, but I feel like that approach has ruined beloved movie franchises. We'll just let that hang.
And here's some Elmer Van Linen.
And here's some Elmer Van Linen. All right, I guess that's our show for the week. Once again, this is Kevin MacLeod. I am Bryan Teoh, and I guess until next time, we'll just keep on writing.